You're listening to the Connected Parenting Minute with Will and CarrieAnn Sandfest. This podcast is a conversation about parenting using connection first, trauma-informed principles. Because when you lead with connection, everyone feels seen, which is the foundation to a more peaceful home. This podcast reminds you that you don't have to be a perfect parent, but we can all get a little better, one connected parenting minute at a time.
Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. This is the Connected Parenting Minute. My name is Will Standfast.
I'm CarrieAnn.
We are so glad that you took a few minutes out of your day to join us. We are excited to just share some ideas, some of our experiences with you. We are parents just like you, and we have learned through a lot of our mistakes, and we want to share things that are working and
things that are not, or things that have not.
Oh yeah. I hope you're excited to join us as we talk tonight. So before we get started tonight, I wanted to ask you a question. What is your favorite teenage movie? But I'm not sure if I mean like your favorite movie about teenagers or your favorite movie when you were a teenager. I'll let you choose. Which one do you like to answer?
I just, oh goodness. I think we were just talking about this topic the other night, and I kind of thought of a couple of them because I was thinking like, you know, those 90s, like teenage romance, whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, there's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, that's good.
Let's see. She's All That. That was pretty.
Can't Hardly Wait.
Pretty epic. Oh yeah, that's true.
Rachel A. Cook, the queen of the late 90s, early 2000s.
That's true. But as you were talking about this, I just remembered my absolute most favorite
I was going to say, I'm surprised you didn't mention it.
Well, no. I don't think this is what you're going to think it is. Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, yeah.
With Leonardo DiCaprio and...
I knew that. I did not remember it.
Claire Danes. There we go.
I was thinking you were going to say Titanic.
I know. I knew you were thinking I was going to say that. But I mean, I did watch the movie an absurd amount of times, but I really did like Romeo and Juliet. I even bought the soundtrack to that movie.
I remember that. I do.
Yeah. It was not that much time before we met, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it works.
That's fun. That's all right.
Good times. I'm going to have to watch that again now. It's been a while. Yeah. Probably like 20 years.
It's only 20 years.
Classic.
Whatever.
Classic movie.
So speaking about teenagers, on tonight's episode, we wanted to talk about part 2. We're trying to do this 2-part episode about how to have a better relationship with your teenagers, how to connect with your teenagers. Because there are a lot of parents out there, us included, who struggle to connect with our teenagers. We've had moments, we still have moments where we either don't get our teenager or they're upset or we just don't seem to connect. I mean, there's all kinds of struggles out there.
Absolutely. I think sometimes, especially as we had young, like we were really new to the teenager thing, like our poor firstborn has gotten a lot of...
They always get the short end of the stick.
I know. The poor kid. Like I always tell him like, I'm sorry, buddy, you're the guinea pig. He's like, I know, Mom.
For reference, we're both firstborns.
That's true.
And our firstborn is now 19. He's almost not a teenager anymore.
I know.
He'll be 20 here in a few weeks. And we've got 3 others that are teenagers right now. And next year, 2 more will become teenagers.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like right in the thick of our teenager parenting right now. So we just want to talk through it because I know it's something that a lot of parents struggle with. We struggle with it early on. We had some good role models. We had some not so good role models. And since this is part 2, let's do a quick recap of what we talked about in part 1.
Sure.
So the big 3 takeaways we had from part 1 were 1, you got to change your perspective on your teenagers. Can you give the people the 2-minute version of what that means?
Well, I think it really means is that we have to start looking at our teens as like people. I mean, we have the tendency to look at our kids, you know, I mean, when they're little and don't have their full capacity to do the things that adults can do, we tend to treat them as such. But when they really do start getting into those teen years, and even before that, you know, they start having their own thoughts and opinions. And when we respect that, when we show them that respect, I think they start picking up on that and say, hey, you know, Mom and Dad actually care about what I think, not just about what I do.
Yeah, it's really hard. It was really hard for us. And I think that's kind of one of the core struggles we had with our oldest is shifting our perspective from seeing him as a larger version of a little child I have to take care of to an actual like person, an adult who's kind of growing and becoming his own young man.
Yeah.
You know, second of the big 3 takeaways was to make room for their plans. And that's really just around, again, respecting that they're mini adults, that they're growing and that they have their own thoughts, that they have their own ideas, they have their own plans, their own dreams about what's coming up in life and stuff like that. And there's a level to which we need to respect that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What was the third one, hon?
And then the third one was be asking what they need. And I think that really plays into the fact of trying to prompt them to start thinking about what their needs are rather than just reacting to the situations around them, giving them the opportunity to start thinking about, what is it that I need in this situation? And so it's a little weird way to phrase that, but I think it's been really helpful for us to start, asking ourselves that in situations, what do we need? What do I need right now? But then also prompting them to think about that too. It's been super helpful.
That's good. I like that. All right. And so in my mind, if I sum up those three things, a lot of that comes down to just respect, like kind of building this kind of foundation of respect with your kids.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think that's really the first level of trying to figure out how to connect with your teens, how to have a better relationship with them is by starting with finding ways to respect them and to make them feel respected.
Yeah.
And so moving into part 2 here, we're kind of talking about, well, how do you have fun with your teens and how do you kind of like take it from, okay, they feel kind of respected. Now, what do we do? Mm-hmm. And so the first part we came up with, the first point I want to talk about is the idea that it's not always about you.
Isn't that hard though?
It's so hard.
I remember doing this little lesson with some of our older kids when they were little. And I was trying to teach them about perspective. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about the fact that, unfortunately, we only have our own perspective to go off of, but that we need to challenge ourselves to see things from maybe what someone else might see them or a different perspective. So I actually had this I don't know if it was a lesson, but I had them all stand on the kitchen table and look at the room from a different perspective. And I don't know if it stuck with them as much as it stuck with me, but, in the moment, it was just like, yeah, all right. You know what? I have the limited perspective just for myself. And so as adults, all we have is our perspective, but we have to start thinking outside of the box more with that. One
of our teens just wears emotions on his sleeves. Mm-hmm. Like if he's upset, it just like emanates from him.
The poor kid. I'm just like, what's wrong?
He's very dramatic. And I love that about him. Mm-hmm. Like I think it has a potential to make him a very passionate, very driven man as he gets older and stuff like that. It is a roller coaster as he is navigating that as a teenager. This reminder that it's not always about me and I'm interacting with my kiddo who wears his emotions on his sleeve. Super easy. He comes upstairs. Hey, bud, we got to take care of this ACT registration. And did you get a chance to look at your homework? Have you finished the registration? Do you fill out the form? And I get yeah, whatever. I mean, I did it fine. Some kind of just like overly emotional, like, deep sigh, whatever response. And as parents, like, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you have that interaction?
Excuse me. What? Right? I'm sorry. What animal of yours did I kill? Because again, I see it as, hello, you're being super rude in this moment. And I didn't do anything. I'm literally just trying to take care of the stuff that, we had talked about before and check in with you. And now, you're shooting daggers at me.
Yeah. And that's the first place I go to. I get super frustrated. I feel super disrespected. And there's a level of that is warranted of feeling disrespected and all that. But we're the adults in that situation. Mm-hmm. And so we have the choice to react differently. Mm-hmm. We can choose to say, okay, let's give this a minute. And the thing we've learned, and this is from this kid, I think he's highlighted it the most for me, is we just be like, okay, we just kind of, he'll give us did you fill out that form? Yes. Okay. Come back to, and then if we revisit it with him later, 9 times out of 10, I get a story. Oh yeah. Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to be so rude earlier. My buddy at work had texted me and he told me he was going to take my shift and now he's not going to. And I'm just frustrated because I really wanted to go do this thing with my other friends. Or one of his teachers screwed up an assignment and all of a sudden he's got a ton of work to do tonight because it was entered on the online system wrong. It's 9 times out of 10, it's not about us. And he knows he was disrespectful. And this kid apologizes for it pretty readily. Mm-hmm. But if I take it personally in that moment and I escalate the fight like right then and like, listen here, don't you talk to me like that and whatever, like that whole relationship becomes a fight every time he's around, or I'm working in pins and needles and I'm not afraid and I'm afraid to talk to him because I don't want to upset him. Like, that none of that's a good foundation for a relationship.
Right.
But if I just take a breath and I choose to react better and I choose to kind of step outside the moment and change my perspective on it, we'll find that 9 times out of 10, the reason they're upset or moody or frustrated or tired or whatever, it's not about us and it's not about our relationship with them. It's about something else. And if we can come alongside them and partner with them through those things, it does wonders for the relationship.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about it, how many times do we have bad days as grown-ups?
Oh, yeah.
And there's no like rhyme or reason for it, or just like woke up on the wrong side of the bed and, it's hard not to snap at everybody you come across. And so we have to grant them the same graces. It just might be a little bit more frequent at this particular juncture in their lives.
But they're not adults.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so I like having that soundtrack in the back of my head of it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about me. And if it is, at some point we can come back to that, but we're not going to solve anything right in that moment.
Right. Yeah.
We just aren't.
Yep, absolutely. And so the second one I was thinking about too is how to connect with your teens is sharing hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
Is one I really like. I got to be honest.
Well, you had a really good perspective on that because we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but talking about if you got youngins, what do we do?
If you got young ones, this is your ideal opportunity to have teenagers you enjoy is share your hobbies with them when they're little. When they're littler and they're just desperate for every minute they can get with you, if you include them in on something you really enjoy, like board games or watching a Formula One race or football or playing sports or whatever it is, as they get older, they enjoy spending time with you so much that they enjoy doing that activity with you. And then that activity becomes something they love because it reminds them of their dad. Like, I mean, talk about hitting home right there for a second. Like how many activities do you enjoy right now that you can have fond memories of doing it with your dad? Right. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is like woodworking stuff. My dad used to let me come alongside and do that. And it was like the best thing to like join him in a shop and be able to like make something together. Super epitome of like greatness when I was a kid. And I still love doing it now. In fact, when I'm around my dad, I get a chance to do that and I have fun with it and we enjoy talking together about it. So
yeah, that's just a beautiful thing. And it's fun. I've learned that now that I'm like 4 or 5 kids into this.
Right. Oops.
My 11-year-old, it loves board games because I've been playing board games with him for a long time. And, when the older ones were little, I wasn't as patient as I could have been. And I didn't take as much time to like, no, just let the little kid play the board game not well, because 5 years from now, he's going to be awesome at it. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
It takes a little investment, sometimes a lot of investment, but it does potentially pays off for your hobbies, the things you enjoy.
Yeah. But not everybody has. We're not talking about theoretical teenagers. We're talking about actual teenagers. So, so what would you say to people who have teenagers right now that they're struggling to connect with, that they don't necessarily share their favorite hobby with?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I was thinking about it, and really a lot of it comes down to is figuring out what they're interested in and showing interest in it too. I know, right? It can be challenging, especially when you genuinely have absolutely no interest in the things that they're interested in. Oh, that is tough.
It is.
We have more than one of those.
Our teenagers have hobbies, and shockingly, we're not interested in all of them.
Exactly.
But we are genuinely, deeply interested in them.
Yep. And so sometimes that means doing something that you don't enjoy quite as much in the interest of showing them that you care about what they care about. Sometimes that just means asking really good questions and being genuinely curious about what it is that they find so fascinating or why they find it interesting. So it comes down to asking good questions and maybe even rewarding yourself after. Like, as awful as that sounds, but sometimes
that's real though. That's real.
I'm like, oh, well, if we sit and I ask these really good questions about this thing that is just absolutely not on my radar whatsoever, then I'm going to go take a nice bubble bath or do something, have a piece of chocolate or whatever it is.
Or cookie dough.
There you go. Speaking of sharing interest, you've shared your interest in cookie dough with the kids. That's why it keeps running out.
Whoopsie. I'm sorry.
Good thing we belong to Sam's Club.
Yeah, we're being a little intentionally vague because I don't want to like out any of our children or make them feel bad or anything like that. But like to be a little more practical, that might involve a 15-minute dissertation on a video game to a parent who has no interest in video games, or a whole dissertation on a card game or a whole thing about their favorite sports team and you can't stand sports, whatever it is. But this is your kid. And if you genuinely want to have a better relationship with them, one of the most practical ways to do that is to be genuinely interested in what they're interested in and ask them why. If they're trying to play this game really, really well, ask them about that level they were trying to beat or that best time they were trying to get, or help them go practice for their, for an upcoming audition or for
whatever. I mean, you can always come up with something to engage with them in a way that, basically tells them, I see you and what is important to you, I have an interest in. And that's really important.
It is. It makes people feel really valued because we can think about that even like in the workplace or with people you talk with at church or wherever, that somebody genuinely interested in what you're interested in.
It shows.
You tend to connect.
Yeah. You feel it. And so that's what we want for our kids.
And then this is a good one. This next point right here.
Yeah.
Have fun with them.
Right.
Because going back to the whole change your perspective idea, a lot of people will tell you that teens are just crazy. I just don't know what to do with them or whatever like that. Like, let's stop that. Let's stop that negative soundtrack because this is a thing. Shout out to John Acuff. Not a sponsor, but could be. Take that kind of like negative, repetitive thought. Oh, these teens are crazy. Oh, they're out of control, whatever. Why don't you turn that into teens are just always up for some fun?
Yeah, no, right? That's a really good soundtrack to have. And I think it's an important one to start believing because they can do really fun things.
Can I tell you guys, you know this, hon, but talking to some of our listeners, one of the most fun things you can do if you're into it is take a bunch of your teenagers to the roller coaster park and ride some rides because teens are up for running around like goofballs and riding the same ride 17 times until you feel sick or whatever. And that's so much fun.
It is fun.
We did that this summer at the end, kind of end of the summer thing with our whole family. Is we live up near the Twin Cities. So there's a coaster park up here called Valley Fair, and they've got some pretty decent coasters. And we just like got everybody a day pass and we all went out there, and man, that was a blast. It
really was. It was such a good time, and it was such a different phase for our family because we didn't have to get a babysitter. Everybody could participate. Everybody really liked it for the most part, which was great. And it's even fun to kind of goat some of your older teens and to be like, I bet you won't go on this ride. And, see them squirm. And that's, of course, if you're into coasters, which we have been forever because you got me into them. But
I've been riding coasters since I was in high school.
That's been one of our fun things to go and do. One of the things that we enjoyed is going to the roller coaster park, just the two of us, and running around like fun teens and have a good time and just not have any, worries about, little kids like babies and stuff like that. And so we get to do that with our teens, and it's really fun now.
Oh, it is. It's so much fun. And so for those other listeners that aren't into roller coasters and you are missing out, let me tell you, it's so much fun. There's also like movies. Lots of teens are into movies. Maybe they're into music. Go to a concert with your teenager.
Yep.
Let me tell you, if you can find a band you and your teenager can both stand, that's a lot of fun too.
Well, and I think it's important to point out too, is that, you have your music. Hopefully you've been sharing with your kids for a long time.
Yeah.
But they probably have music and taking interest in that.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
I know. It can be tricky. I like my familiar music and the memories it brings back, but new music is important too, because to them, this is, that music is important. So
yeah, for sure.
All right.
Sports. Again, couple tickets to a baseball game or a basketball game. Good food. Like, do you have a kid that's a foodie? I mean, that doesn't do it for me, but there's plenty of people out there that are really into that.
Yeah. I mean, cooking together. If they're interested in it, by all means, A, life skill, B, you don't have to make dinner as much.
That's absolutely awesome. Here's the hard one for a lot of parents: video games.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of teenagers out there that like video games. And if you can plug your nose and not plug your nose, but if you can find a game that you can engage with and enjoy with your teenager, if you can genuinely find a game that you genuinely can enjoy, you don't have to play it every day or play it for hours, whatever like that. But you're not as into video games as I am.
No.
But you still enjoy a couple of good rounds of Mario Kart.
Yes, that's true. I can do Mario Kart or some sort of Mario game that just
it's fun.
It's fun, and they really get a kick out of it. They enjoy it. They're like, "Whoa, mom can play Mario!"
Right, and I'm into video games a bit more. I don't like play them obsessively, but I've got a brand new PlayStation, and it's fun. So you know what? Call of Duty isn't my favorite game, but my 17-year-old loves it. So you know what I did? I bought the latest Call of Duty, and I play it with him.
Yeah, and he really enjoys that.
It's a lot of. I enjoy it too.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun to hang out with him. And then we can talk about like loadouts and like perks and like when we had this really good game, and it's something to connect with, something to share, something you can do together. And then here's another tip I thought of when we were prepping for this episode is something I think really hits well with your kids, especially your teens. Make them feel like you're willing to break the rules to have fun with them.
Break the rules.
Yeah. How many times? I bet you most of our listeners, you and me included, can think of a time when our mom or dad took us out to go do something that was kind of against the rules. And we had a lot of fun. Yeah,
we remember those things because they stick out to us. Yeah.
If you can find a way to kind of lightly break the rules, and there's a fine line here. I'm going to call the guys out on this episode, be like, don't make mom be the bad guy and dad be the good guy who's willing to have fun all the time. That is not setting you up for success.
Yeah. I think being on the same page with their spouse is super important. If you are parenting together, making sure that you're not throwing each other under the bus, but, come to agreement beforehand.
But like pick your kid up from youth group and then take them out to ice cream.
Or choose to skip school for the day and do something.
One day of school.
I know. What's the worst that's going to happen?
They'll miss
a day of school.
It's almost like that perspective thing that you're talking about. Really, what's the worst that's going to happen in this situation? Sometimes it's not nearly as bad as we can make it appear in our minds.
And the benefit is going to be so much greater than that one day of learning something at school.
How many singular days of learning from your schooling years can you pull out and remember like, oh, I remember the day when we learned this one thing.
Yeah.
Like 5, maybe 10 out of 18 years of school. But you can remember the one time you and your dad skipped out and went to go see a movie or got some ice cream late at night. Or I grew up near the Detroit area, and when the Pistons were like winning championships and the Red Wings were winning championships and all that, I got to stay up till like midnight one time and the Pistons won the world championship.
Nice.
It was a school night, but it was awesome. And I remember it now being in my 40s. Those kind of things stick with kids and they make them feel very valued. And they're like, wow, dad did this thing just to hang out with me or to have fun with me.
Well, it builds my parents on my team. They're rooting for me. We're like in this together. And so building that camaraderie, I think is really important in little ways that you can find to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are some really good suggestions. So let's run back through them really quick. What are the big 3 takeaways we want parents to hear from this episode?
All right. So number 1 is it's not always about you.
Yep. If you got a moody teenager and you get a moody response, you got to be the adult. You got to take a deep breath, step back, and just
say that to yourself. It's not about me in this moment.
Yes, absolutely. Number 2, share hobbies with your kid. Either share your hobbies as they're growing up or share in their hobbies what they're interested in. Show some genuine interest and genuinely engage with them around the things they care about.
Number 3,
have fun. Because teenagers are fun.
They are.
Teenagers aren't crazy and out of control. They're kids that are always up for a good time.
Yeah. Rewriting that soundtrack's important because it will really build a better rapport with our teens.
Yeah. And that's an idea that really has stuck with me personally too, is that idea of soundtracks, these repetitive thoughts, being able to have positive ones that are either aspirational things you want to believe about yourself or your teenagers, or things that you believe that you want to remember more often. That's a really important concept that I think I want to keep sharing with people.
Yeah. And it's about being self-reflective and being like, well, why do I believe that teens are tricky or difficult or whatever it is? Like looking at that and saying, I didn't realize I actually believe that, because it creeps out the things that we believe we act on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend time with us. I pray that it's blessed you. I pray that it's encouraged you. I pray that you've taken a few things away. As always, reach out with any ideas, any thoughts, any comments, any episodes, any questions you have. And we want to remind you,
you don't have to be a perfect parent,
but we can all get a little bit better, one connected parenting minute at a time.
Thank you guys for listening to my mom and dad's podcast. Please like, share, follow, and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.
For more parenting tips or to connect with us, check out the Connected Parenting Minute on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Or you can send us an email using connectedparentingminute@gmail.com.